but ye have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch, and Chiun, your images, the star of your god, which ye made to yourselves. The Greek translator of Sanchoniathon tells us that among the Phoenicians, Cronus was denominated Eel, and he is clearly right in giving us this piece of information, for the legend of the Punic eel is such as to leave us no room to doubt of his identity with the classical Saturn. Each is the son of heaven and earth, each is the parent of a triple offspring, each is said to have mutilated his father. The Cronus then of the classical mythologists is the eel of the Phoenicians. But the Phoenicians were Indo-Scythians, who migrated first from Upper India to Babylonia, and afterwards from Babylon to Palestine. Now the Indo-Scythians have in all ages been worshippers of Buddha or Menu, and they still both denominate this hero god Elah, and assign to him a daughter consort who bears the same appellation. Hence it is manifest that the Elah, pronounced Eel, of the Indo-Scythians is the Eel of their brethren the Phoenicians. But the legend of Eel proves him to be the classical Saturn must inevitably be identified with the Elah, or Buddha or Menu of the Indo-Scythians. Sanchoniathon says that Cronos and Eel are the same, and Lenormand says the same of Cronos and the Chaldean Elu. Buddha again, by a fresh departure, starting from the latest development of the Brahmana period, returns by stemming the flood to what was possibly the most primitive of all worship, namely, that of the first uncreated and uncreating principle, the eternal that, which breathed breathless, so that, as at the bottom of this ascending scale we find the strong hand, that is the sun, worshipped, so at the very top we are brought back, by one who in himself embodies the characteristics of sun worship, to supposed first principles, in themselves underlying all worship. I said above that Buddha, or the legend of Buddha, embodies in it the characteristics of sun worship. This has been well shown by M. Sainart in his Legend du Buddha. Saturn being thus the same deity as Buddha, we find him bearing not only the appellation Eel, but likewise another of the sacred Buddhic titles Chiun, whose star is mentioned by the prophet Amos, is rightly, by Selden and Bear, either identified with Saturn or at least immediately connected with him. Now this star, as we have elsewhere seen, is manifestly the Diluvian star of the Persian Mithras or the second man-bull Tasker, and the Persian Mithras or Tasker or Ahudad has been shown to be the same as Mahabad or Buddha. Accordingly, we are told by Aben Ezra that the god, whom the classical writers denominate Cronus or Saturn, was styled by the Arabs and the Persians Chivan, which is palpably the same title as the Chiun of Amos. The word Chiun may with equal propriety be written Kion, Kion, or even Kayon, the Hebrew Yod being convertible into the Greek U or the Roman Y, but the words Cain, Chan, Can, or Khan, which are often diversified into Ken, Kin, Cohen, Kohan, signifying head, chief, prince, king, are diffused through a great part of Asia and Europe. In Chinese language Guin, which signifies a king, is so similar to the word Chiun or Kiun under consideration, that no etymologist will hesitate to pronounce them of the same original and the same import. The word Kan or Khan is universally known to be an honorary title and artery, and Kayan or Cain, which is manifestly cognate of the word Chiun or Kiun, is in the Pahlavi or Old Persian language, the epithet applied to the dynasty of princes which succeeded Cyrus the Great. Among the Scythians or ancient Tartars, Kiun signifies the sun and likewise the day. Another very interesting proof that the hexagram symbol belongs to the god of the double horizon, and that it is an early solar symbol and not stellar. The Indian idol Dandayudaswamy is said to carry the sun across the sky on his back. of Moloch, Ahrum-Melech, Aham-Melech, Baal, the tabernacle of Molech, Chiun, Remphan. Horses consecrated to the sun, Tammuz. As to the word Chiun in Amos, which the LXX translates Riphan, and the evangelist, Remphan, it is observed by several authors, that the letter K, Kaf in Chiun being mistaken for R, Rish, and the letter Mu, epenthetically introduced, so considerable an alteration has been made from the Hebrew text. Jar Aldous says, that the Egyptians called Hercules in their language Chorn, and the Persians and Arabians, according to Aben Ezra, Kircher, gave a nearly similar name to Saturn, under different epithets. They all meant the sun. The star of Chiun or Remphan is supposed to have been a figure of the sun, depicted upon the front of the idol, of which there are many examples among the heathens, and it plainly shows that the idols themselves in their various forms stood for representatives of some properties in that glorious orb. By Chiun we are to understand Hercules, who in the Egyptian language was called Chorn. By Rephan we are to understand the same Hercules, for Rephaim, in the holy tongue signifieth, giants. By Hercules we may understand the planet of the sun. There are etymologists which derive Hercules' name from the Hebrew Herkel. Illuminatomnia, the Greek etymology, holds correspondence with the Hebrew, and both signify that universal light which floweth from the sun as water from a fountain. Nay, to those very persons who suppose Chiun to be the planet Saturn, very much in their own accounts, Brocklesby likewise acknowledges that by Saturn it may be understood the sun. Besides, it is reasonable to suppose that by Saturn, in the pagan theology, we are to understand the sun, who was the Moloch, Melech, or Milchom of the Ammonites, mentioned just before, whom the authors of the universal history make to be the same deity with Chiun. But if Chiun, or Rephan, Resheph, were the planet Saturn, which they affirm, how could he be the same with Moloch, or Baal, who is allowed to be the sun? If we diligently observe histories, we shall find such a confusion of the planets, that the sun, as it is sometimes called Baal, sometimes Moloch, so it was sometimes called Jupiter, sometimes Saturn, and concerning Baal this is evident. Hence, Jupiter was called, by the Phoenicians, Baal-Saman, which name is derived from the Hebrew, and soundeth as much as Jupiter Olympius, the Lord of heaven. For Baal signifies Lord, and Shamain, heaven. And what is this Lord of heaven, in the theology of the heathens, other than the sun? Concerning Saturn, it is apparent that the sun was worshipped under his name, and that passage of Amos, verse 26, except I am deceived, relates to the worship of the sun, which I would translate thus, but ye have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch and Chiun, your images, the star of your God which ye made to yourselves. The word Saturn, also is as much, or more applicable to the sun Saturn, than to the planet Saturn. Resheph or Baal Resheph was the sun god as he appeared during the sultry heats of summer. Thus Azar, Ashur, Adar indited originally only another aspect of the nature of Bilu, that is Ilu. Ashur and Aserat are to some extent identical with Bilu and Bilit. Adar has the title Kivanu, the established, the Chiun of Amos verse 26, and Sandan, the helper. He was represented as a winged bull with a man's head, hence Amos describes the golden calf of Aaron as a Chiun image. Adar was god of fire and heat. In later times he was identified with the planet Saturn. Adar the warrior, the son of the south, the son of the midday, like Adar Malik corresponds to the Phoenician and Palestine Moloch. He devours the productions of the earth and human victims alone can appease him. Azar and Sur are the sun god. Chiun was the Ashura of Exodus 3:14, the living god of time, Set or Saturn. For Chiun, like Moloch, was the name of the living one. Almost the same word among the Hindus for Saturn is Varuna, compounded of the shining bar of the Assyrians, or Va of the Sclavonians, Persians and Bactrians, the god Abar, Ani or On, the sun. The character of Varuna, as is the case with other Vedic deities, does not appear to have been or remained the same throughout the whole period represented by the Vedic poetry, but on the contrary, to have varied according as imaginations were connected with the idea out of which he arose. Originally, Varuna seems to have been conceived as the sun from the time after its setting to that of its rise. Among the sun deities mentioned in the Hindu Vedas are Savitar, the creator sun with golden hands, Res, Mithra, the day sun, Varuna, the Saturn of the Vedic period, Bharga, the Sclavonic and Old Persian sun god, Ahriman, Pushan, Apasan, Agni who is the sun, fire god, the lightning, Surya, Ashur. Varuna is the sun. Varuna in glittering glory sits enthroned afar in his 100-gated palace. The sun is the eye of Varuna, the wind is his breath. Osiris was the sun, and like Saturn and Varuna, judge of the dead also. Varuna the Hindu Saturn is the yellow old man in hell. Varuna, originally the chief god of the Vedic pantheon, was replaced by Indra and later faded away with the ascendancy of Shiva. Saturn, who is the same as Bel, Baal, Shiva, and Jehovah Sabaoth. Who are Moloch and Chiun but Baal Saturn Shiva, and Chiun, Gaivan, the same Saturn whose star the Israelites had made to themselves. There seems no escape in this case, all these deities are identical. Shiva is an Ethiopian god, the same as the Chaldean Baal, Bel, thus he is also Saturn. Saturn, El, Seth and Chiun, or the biblical Chiun of Amos, are all one and the same deity, and may be also regarded in their worst aspect as Typhon the Destroyer. The observations of Calmet, on the Chiun mentioned by Amos, are, I think, entitled to much consideration. He suggests it to be the same as the Kaivan or Shiva of the Hindus. Kaivan, Shiva, to destroy, the destructive aspect of the sun. Agni, or T, that is, fire, which the Shivanites worship as a symbol of Shiva or the sun. The sun represents God or the cosmic lord in general, the cosmic masculine principle. In Hindu Dharma, the main form of the great god is Shiva, Mahadeva. Shiva is the supreme deity of the sun. The serpent deity who was thus known under so many forms was none other than the sun god Set or Saturn, who has already been identified with Shiva and other deities having the attributes usually ascribed to the serpent. Under the article Shiva it is shown. The Vishnu, in a strictly mythological view, is the preserving attribute. He represents also the wisdom of the deity, as Brahma does his power, and Shiva his justice. Extending our view, we find that Vishnu metaphysically is a personification of space, matter and time being assignable to his co-eternal associates in the Hindu triad. In physics, Vishnu is water, or the humid principle generally, thus he is the air, and in a degree of relationship less intimate, he is the earth. He is also time, and as before said, the sun. The sun god has been represented in triple form, that is Brahma, Shiva and Vishnu.